In these first two books, we've met the first character, Samuel Hamilton, and it seems like Samuel, his most defining characteristics are his love, his search for truth, his creativity, and his immutable hope. His love is demonstrated by, despite being a financially unable, yet he still is pro-children and has lots of children, and it seems like as much as possible, as much as depends on him, has a loving, warm, good relationship with the vast majority of his children. Also, Liza, his wife, is not a barrel of monkeys. She's not full of LOLs, and yet he's a faithful, loving, and respectful husband to her. And I think probably the greatest demonstration that Samuel is a loving person is who he is to Adam. It would be incredibly easier. You could think of a million reasons not to intervene in Adam's life, and yet at the end of book 2 and the beginning of book 3, Samuel is going to keep on interfering with Adam's life out of love because he cares about him as sort of a father figure. So Samuel is loving and respectful to everyone he meets. He doesn't have a lot of money, and yet he invests in love. And also, along with not having a lot of money, we see him sneaking books. And so he is someone who is obsessed with the truth. He'll say in just a few chapters, he'll say to Adam, I'm a lot of things, but one thing I'm not is a liar. I'm not lying to you about this. And that goes not just for that given situation, but Samuel's entire character. He is undoubtedly a man devoted to truth and finding truth, and that his discussions are for love and affection and friendship, but they're for truth-seeking as well. And despite his own realistic view of the fallenness of human nature, the darkness that can dwell in the human heart, the darkness that he sees in the Salinas Valley, yet through technology and through his anthropology, his view of humans, he's very optimistic and hopeful person as well. And so he can be realistic, but also hopeful person. He sees a bright future for individual people and for humanity if they would choose love. Second character, Liza. It seems like when someone is close-minded and routine borders on obsession, and they have a black and white rule for everything, an absolute rule that applies in every situation. Well, it seems like that kind of person genuinely just wants a simple life that you don't have to live by taking risk or walking by faith or trusting or leaning on wisdom or any of that, but rather there's just how do I apply the rule to this situation? There's a rule for every situation, and it's either good or it's bad, and there's no gray. And so it seems like a person like that just wants a simple life, a easier life, and what's behind that seems to be the desire to control one's life. And so Liza seems like that kind of person, but Steinbeck, I think, wisely shows that all types of personalities have their upsides and their downsides. Well, most types of personalities have their upsides and their downsides. And so when there's chaos in the Trask household, Liza is the first person that Samuel thinks of. And so she can be the butt of a joke. I'm sure she is, if I'm reading the book correctly, I'm sure she is in Steinbeck's mind a kind of a comic relief character, yet he shows some dignity to her character, and she has a life that some of us can understand. Besides Samuel and Liza, we met the third character, Cyrus Trask, and it seems like what he wants, well, it's said explicitly, is that he wants to be thought of as a great man. He wants respect. He wants people to honor and revere him. And like most people, he wants that before it's actually deserved of him. And what will he do to get that? Well, he'll even lie. He'll even improve upon his resume greatly. And I think the novel implies to us that he'll even do that to probably steal money or probably get a large amount of money in some unseemly way. We don't know that, but I think that's a pretty fairly safe guess that what Cyrus is after as a character is for respect, and he will go to traditionally immoral or wrong lengths to get that respect, such as lying and stealing, and really demanding it, if not physically, almost beating it out of his sons, is to revere him as a great man or a general, when in fact he's probably just a normal guy, or even less than a normal guy. Not much of a war hero, and that's where he finds his entire identity in something that he seems average to below average at being a soldier. Besides those three characters, we see Charles Trask, and Charles is painted very much in the characteristic of someone who just desperately wants their father to see him. He wants his dad to recognize and to respect and revere him. He wants love from his father, but not necessarily, it doesn't seem, any sort of mushy love. He just wants to be seen. He wants to be known. He wants to be appreciated. He wants to feel like an important person. And it seems like more than anyone, he wants that from his father. Don't get the sense early in his life that he wants that from or needs that from anyone else. Perhaps Adam as they grow to be peers, but certainly in the early part, at least in book 1, Charles seems to be after the respect and love of his father. Fifth, after Samuel, Liza, Cyrus, and Charles, Adam, the main character of the entire novel. It seems like he lacks direction and purpose in all parts of the novel, where he doesn't have love, and that he's a great dude or struggling, competing to be a great dude when he does have that. So he's someone who seems like they're after purpose, and that he finds his purpose. Never doesn't seem like he ever sinks his identity into a career or power as some men would, but rather as other men would. He finds it in the love of someone. And so there are things he builds on that, such as the state of his ranch. It seems like a symbol of how he's doing at the time. So if it's prosperous and growing, then he's prosperous and growing. If it's laying weeded and unattended to, so is his soul left weeded, unweeded, and unattended to. And so he's after other things, but those things all seem to flow from he needs a purpose, he needs a reason to live, and the reason to live is love for him. And so when that can be choked and punched into him by Samuel Hamilton, he can be awoken to that it's not just romantic love, it's the love of father to sons that can give a man purpose. Kathy, we're just told explicitly by the narrator, by the author, by the person who created Kathy, we're told explicitly that she is inscrutable, and so she's inscrutable. But we at least can do a little bit better than that. So certainly she doesn't seem to be driven by money necessarily, because she leaves Mr. Edwards and Adam and goes to less financially advantageous situations. The commonality so far in these first two books, we can say for certain with Kathy, is she wants autonomy. She wants to be in control. And so parents don't seem that bad. Mr. Edwards, I mean, it could be worse. Adam, decent husband, even if he didn't listen to her, even if he didn't see her. I mean, I could think of a lot worse things to say about a husband. And she kills/leaves all of them. And so, yes, she's inscrutable in that we don't really know what she's after, but we know what she's not after. And she doesn't want to be bossed around and have someone else holding the strings of her life as a marionette. She wants to be her own person in a way that she'll go to the most extreme lengths in order to make that happen in her life. And then Lee, we don't get a lot of the internal life of Lee. We have to rely completely on just what he does and what he says. But this final main character, Lee, is one of the most honorable, dutiful people. He simply does what needs to be done. He does the right thing. He's after truth, and he is tireless in his devotion as a servant. So he fulfills the literal role of servant beautifully, wonderfully, not only above reproach, but above and beyond. And he's more than that. He's a father not only to the twins, but But Adam, in a way, he's a friend to Samuel and just really has no character flaws, and he just seems like the definition, the embodiment of a faithful person. There's no spotlight, no awards, no key to the city. No one's applauding him or giving him attention, and yet he's just there making it all work for the young twin boys and for Adam. So those are some of the main characters in the first two books. Now, themes, you would think that a book called East of Eden, and with many of the characters reflecting biblical names, and then an entire chapter where the main characters are opening up a Bible, reading a passage, and exchanging interpretations and applications of that passage. You would think that the East of Eden would be an extremely Christian novel. And it is, but it also isn't. Flannery O'Connor is famous for saying about living in the South that it was living in the South is more Christ-haunted than Christ-centered. And that's the feeling, at least I get, when I read the book of East of Eden. There's biblical allusions everywhere, but so far, we'll say that because we're only through the first two books of it. So far, there's not really a Christ figure or any sort of Christ presence so far. There are, of course, people acting like servants. There is sacrificial love. There's truth and wisdom. There's Christ-like characteristics. But as far as a Christ figure, I don't see that in the first two books. No one manifesting, accomplishing redemption through self-sacrifice. No atonement, no substitution that would be an explicitly Christian theme. I don't see this as a Christ-centered or even a very Christian book. So I think it's wearing the clothing of Christianity, but I don't find that so far in the first two books we have a Christ figure who is going to redeem anyone through sacrificial love. At least so far in the book, I don't see that. What I do see always in Steinbeck is a theme, and that theme is a false hope. And so characters who believe that they would be back in the Garden of Eden if they would just have something, and they spend too much in order to get that thing, or they get that thing and it turns out to be vapor. It turns out to not be the thing that's going to change their life. So there's this struggle for good and evil is certainly a theme of the book, but I think a stronger theme that I'm seeing in the first two books so far on this rereading is this idea that everyone has a hope that they're striving for, and they're foolish in that they're spending too much, they're going about the wrong ways in order to accomplish that hope, or they get the thing that they're striving for, but it doesn't actually, they wake up the next morning and they're still the same person. And so that's the problem with hope, is if it's in the wrong thing, then you can be proved foolish. You can spend your whole life gnawing at something, and then you get it and you wake up the next morning and you realize it wasn't the salvation that you thought it was. So I see that theme, obviously a theme about the struggle for good and evil, are the themes so far in the book, but I'm willing to reconsider if it is more of a Christian book. But on this rereading, I'm specifically looking for that, and I'm just not seeing a specific Redeemer Christ figure. So that is where we're at in the first two books.